After drawing up several templates, I settled on these two. The steel I will be using is 1084, which I got from Pop's Knife Supply. They got me this order pretty quick, and I'm pretty happy about that. I got right to work marking and then cutting off some material with the porta-bandsaw. I quickly realized my blade was dull, but I managed to get through it. Using a permanent marker, I quickly outlined my template onto my steel and got back to work on the porta-bandsaw. I did put a new blade on and was able to get both blades roughed out in maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I was also left with a pile of 1084 powder that I cleaned up before moving forward. That's what I was able to do on the bandsaw. I'll clean the rest up with the grinder. I roughed the profile out to 120 grit and then realized I was pretty cold. I definitely used the forge to heat my shop up. It took about 15 minutes. I went back and forth with the idea of adding sharpening choils or not. As you can see, I decided to add them. I used a chainsaw file to grind them in. I next focused on the handle portion of the blade. I marked out some lines for the holes that I'm going to drill for the pins, and I also drilled a whole bunch of other holes that do a couple different things. One of those is they help with the epoxy bond between the steel and the handle scales. The other thing I'm going for is weight reduction. I want these to be light blades. The bevels come next. I used some layout fluid and then marked some lines to help me keep a consistent grind, and then got to work on the grinder. I started with a used 40 grit belt and worked my way up to 120 grit. That is 120 grit cleaned up with a Scotch-Brite belt. This one is a little less refined, not a big deal. I'll clean it up post-heat treatment. These scales came from Wine Country Woodworks. I am really looking forward to seeing what they look like once complete. I like to rough in the scales before I heat treat knives. You don't have to do it this way, it's just the way that I like to do it, and that's what I'm doing now. I use the porta-bandsaw to rough these in and then clean them up on the grinder. To give me that hamon line that you saw at the beginning of this video, I added some furnace cement during heat treatment. That gave me the differential hardening, and I was able to bring out not the best, but I did get a little hamon line. After 2 temper cycles, I did some hand sanding for a light cleanup before getting back on the grinder and cleaning up the bevels. I took the bevels up to a 240 grit finish and then cleaned it up with a Scotch-Brite belt yet again. I took advantage of using new belts to do this, and it really did not take long at all. From an audience standpoint, this next part sucks. I hand sanded both blades up to 2000 grit, which gave me a little glimpse of the hamon line. After a quick dip in the acid, I was pretty happy with the hamon line. It's certainly not the best, but I've done a lot worse, so I'm happy. We're going to move forward. After the acid bath, I used the aluminum polish and went through several rounds of polishing to give me this result. Obviously, I could do a lot better, but again, I am not unhappy with this. I think it looks good. I did a little more work on the scales to prep them for glue up. Mainly, I just finished the top portion of the scales. That's really hard to get to after they are attached to the blade. Lastly, before gluing these things up, I do add some little pockets for epoxy to rest to ensure that I don't squeeze it all out when I clamp it together. After an overnight cure, I got back to work. I first cut the pins flush with the scales. These pins are G10, 3/16 inch. The majority of the cleanup and shaping was done on the belt grinder. Once I got it close to what I wanted, I moved to the bench and got the files out. The file work is something that I really enjoy doing. This could all be done with the belt grinder, but again, I enjoy the files. I just continued to work the scales until it fit good in my hand. When I thought that it felt good, I stopped and got the sandpaper out. I hand sanded the scales up to 1500 grit before buffing them out with a little polishing compound, and I was really happy with the way these looked. I will definitely be ordering more scales from Winecraft Woodworks again. The last thing I did here was make these two blades wicked sharp. I've already shown you a couple pictures of what it looked like, but here we go with the rest of them.